Oh, what do we have here? Looks like a piece of wood fell off the top of a tree. And if we look over here, we can see that some bark fell off a tree. Now, if we come up the tree, oh, yep, look at that. Oyster mushrooms. About a good 10-12 foot off the ground. And me with no ladder. Those look really good. Here's the other side of the same tree. The good news is that even though I can't reach them, they are slowly seeding down the tree. So in a few days, I will be able to pick these. Here we are the next day. This is Monday. Yesterday we were here looking at these oyster mushrooms, and they have definitely grown overnight, and so have the ones down the trunk. We are now getting some at eye level that we will be able to pick. Some down here will be coming up the next few days, and some right up there. Now this is more like it. Nice and accessible. Here we have some oyster mushrooms growing on the back of my aspen tree. And some more down here. And as you can see, these are fairly big. And these are just brand new. They weren't here a few days ago. And these are oyster mushrooms that we've just picked. And they're going to clean, and these are going to go straight in the freezer. Here we have the oyster mushrooms again. And one of the main identifying characteristics of this oyster mushroom is that it'll be fused at the stem with the other mushrooms. This is a rather unique identifying characteristic here. Also, if you'll notice, the gills run the entire length of the stem all the way down to the wood. That's also a primary identifying characteristic. And also, they will very often have these little beetles. You know, these are just part of it. No matter how new the mushroom is, you're going to have a whole bunch of beetles. These just need to be cleaned and washed out. They don't harm anything. So don't be put off or grossed out by it. It's nature and it's normal. And here's the oyster mushrooms on some wax paper and a cookie sheet, and they're going to go in the freezer, and when they're completely frozen I will take them out and rebag them. This is an oyster mushroom that I froze previously, and we are going to use it by simply thawing it out in a bowl full of water for about 15 minutes. And as you can see, it is quite frozen. Here's our mushroom ice cube, and we are going to be letting this defrost for about 15 minutes or so, and we'll turn it over in that time, and then it should be ready to use for cooking. Here's the oyster mushroom that is now defrosted. It may not look very appetizing, but it'll slice up and cook up just fine. This is some wild garlic that I froze and now just chopped up and threw in here. And we're going to chop up those mushrooms and add those. I think you can see pretty clearly how I cut that mushroom up. And now we're going to throw it in the frying pan and saute it. Okay, now we have the mushrooms sauteing in here, the oyster mushrooms. We're just going to put a lid on and let that go for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to stir it all together. And then we will put in the chicory. This is the chicory, Chicory intybus, that I boiled for about 40 minutes to get the bitter out. And now I'm going to chop it up and put it in the saute. The chicory has been stirred in, and it's been going for about 5 minutes, and it's about ready to serve. I'll be serving this over a nice bed of rice. And there we have it. Sauteed chicory, wild garlic, and oyster mushrooms over a bed of rice. Here we have macaroni with tuna, dandelion, wild garlic, and oyster mushrooms, and salt and pepper. We are going to cover the Pleurotus Populinus, or the Aspen Oyster Mushroom. Here we see the mycelium, or the fruiting body, just starting to emerge from the tree. They usually form quite dense clusters, and you'll usually see a lot of them emerging at the same time from the same tree. These mushrooms can grow quite rapidly. One day they'll be just little pinheads, and the next day they'll be almost harvestable size mushrooms. When it starts to rain, or is otherwise very moist and humid, these mushrooms can grow at an exponential rate. In only a day or two, they've gone from pin size to about what you see before you. Let's take a look at a few more slides so you can see how fast these mushrooms truly do grow. The mushrooms that you see here are about an inch across the top of the cap, and in a span of only one wet, moist night, they can turn from something about the size of this into a whole colony that looks just like this. The amount of time from button-sized mushrooms into ones that are harvestable is about 2 to 3 days, although it can be quite rapid if there is a night that is very, very wet. The ones at the top of this tree pretty much popped out almost overnight. So here we have a good example of what the large fruiting body should look like when these are ready to harvest. These mushrooms are about 2 to 3 inches across on the top of the cap, although it can definitely be much, much larger, and I have seen ones that easily are 6+ inches across the top of the cap, and some of these were indeed quite large when they were ready to be harvested. All of them are fantastic eating. As Green Dean Jordan says, we should itemize. That is ITEM. Identification, time of year, environment, and method of preparation. Identification. Pleurotus Populinus, the Aspen Oyster Mushroom. It will be growing only on populous species such as aspen and cottonwood. It is a white shelf mushroom with white flesh and white gills that run the entire length of the stem, and the spore print is white. Time of year. Any time. Usually the most active in the spring, summer, and fall. However, these can come out in the dead of winter even, and are a welcome treat indeed. They are, however, most prolific where I live in late spring. Environment. Full sun to full shade. I found them in both extremes, and everywhere in between. Method of preparation. Raw or cooked. I prefer mine sautéed in a bit of olive oil with some wild garlic. They also freeze quite well, and may be reconstituted by simply soaking them in cold water for about 15 minutes, after which they can be used in cooking just like you would use the fresh mushrooms. We hope that you've enjoyed this presentation and that it will help you to create your own wild cookery.